Today we've heard the story of the absentee landlord. It comes at a time of Jesus' ministry when he is at the end. He has entered Jerusalem on a donkey to shouts of Hosanna, cleared the temple of the money changers, and has been challenged by the religious authorities, who wonder how and just where Jesus' authority has come from. Now Jesus is telling this story of a landowner who carefully creates a vineyard, complete with a wine press and a wall to protect it. And then he leases it out to tenants and leaves the country, fully expecting to receive the fruits of his estate. At harvest time, the landowner sends his slaves to collect. The vineyard tenants who had tended and harvested the wine crop refused to pay their landlord. In fact, the tenants beat one slave, killed another, when they were sent by the landowner to collect his payment. The landowner decides to send his son, thinking the tenants will respect him, but they seize him, throw him out of the vineyard, and kill him. Then Jesus asks his hearers, "Now what will the landowner do to those tenants?" It doesn't take much to see this is a story of God sending the prophets, John the Baptist and Jesus, to the people of Israel. The chief cornerstone is Jesus. And at first glance, we may think the story is meant only for the Pharisees and chief priests of Israel. But Jesus never tells a story that is so limited. This story was recorded a century after the crucifixion as a warning to his believers that they are to produce the fruits of the kingdom. In Matthew, the fruits of the kingdom are righteous living, human caring, and courageous witnessing. And I often find a good place to look for inspiration is in the lives of the saints. And of course, this week we celebrated St. Francis of Assisi, and we know of his love for all creation. In his healing and miraculous moments with the leper, the birds, the wolf, never missing an opportunity to extol God and God's blessings. But another saint is St. Teresa of Calcutta. Both of these saints lived righteous lives in their dedication to God. Having taken vows of poverty, we would consider them poorer than poor. Yet they are deeply rooted in God's gracious abundance. And they shared from their abundance in love by tending the bodies and souls of human beings and all of God's creatures. And I'd also like to share this story of Mother Teresa of Calcutta. It was 1987, and she visited the death row inmates at San Quentin. One of those inmates was Michael Wayne Hunter. And he wrote this story originally. And at the time on death row, his life consisted of lifting weights. That was it. Lifting weights was the total focus of his life and all the lives of the inmates on death row. On the day Mother Teresa visited, he was on his way to work out, and a guard called out that she would be there. But he didn't believe him, and he went on about his business. As he headed back to his cell, the guard on the gun rail called out, "Don't go into your cells and lock up. Mother Teresa stayed to see you guys too." So he went to the visiting room, and on the other side of the security screen sat this tiny woman who looked 100 years old. These are his words. You have to understand that basically, I'm a dead man. I don't have to observe any sort of social convention. And as a result, I can break all the rules. I can say what I want. But one look at this Nobel Peace Prize winner, this woman so many people view as a living saint, and I was speechless. Incredible vitality and warmth came from her wise and piercing eyes. She smiled at me, blessed a religious medal, and handed it to me. I wouldn't have walked voluntarily to the front pier to see the warden, the governor, the president, even the Pope. I could not care less about them. But standing before this woman, all I could say was, "Thank you, Mother Teresa." She smiled, and the warmth of her presence surrounded him. She turned and pointed at the guard and said to him, "What you do to these men, you do to God." The ripple effect of her simple yet powerful statement was profound. It deeply touched Michael, as no one acknowledged his value as a human being, much less as a child of God. Really, not even himself. And the guard Mother Teresa pointed to was so overcome with surprise and wonder, he wasn't seen for a day and a half. In this small, ancient woman, filled with love and the grace of God, the lives of two men were changed in that moment. She brought God onto death row. And God is the great leveler and reconciler, breaking down the barriers we create between us. God's love continuously challenges us to live fully, graciously, as children of God. We may not have the impact of St. Francis or Mother Teresa, but it is worth aspiring to, of seeking out that deeper relationship, of aligning ourselves intimately with God and holding Christ as our cornerstone in faith. Jesus, as the cornerstone, reveals God's love. God did not seek retribution when Jesus was lifted up on the cross. Love is revealed in Jesus' resurrection and becomes the stumbling block for the religious authorities and for us in our moments when we struggle. When we become too self-contained, holding on to what we think is ours or seeking to get more. So I wonder if you have ever pondered the question, what fruit do I bear through God's love? How is the kingdom of heaven manifested through my life? And the bigger question, do we together bear the fruits of the kingdom of heaven, living in close relationship with God, creation, and one another, embracing relationship over difference, giving generously from the fruits we have graciously received, because we are rooted in God's loving abundance.